zm.com. You've managed? Thank you very much. On your top right, there are 3 lines. Click one, go to the gallery. Forget about the narratives, the text. I just want you to have a look at a few of the many things that we are doing with so many companies that are on board. So briefly, that is who we are as Clear Advertising. I, as Kelvin Chiabi, am heading the team. I happen to be the managing director of that company. But now, I've said we are into outdoor advertising. That is to do with billboards. We are into vehicle branding. We do office branding as well, and so many things. I mean, go to the website when you have a lot of time. It will help you to understand. By the way, I'm still requesting you can also go to the to Facebook and just like that page. We really appreciate. We need your support as well. Thank you very much. But then, how did we start to be where we are? Of course, we've been in business. Next year, we'll be clocking 10 years. It hasn't been an easy journey, as any business would go through turbulences. But we want to see how we started and what challenges we could have faced along the way and how we managed to grow and to be resilient in the market and be able to be where we are today, that next year we are clocking 2 years in this industry. I used to work for a certain advertising company. I mean, it's just natural that you grow from the environment. I used to work for a certain advertising company. It was an outdoor advertising company. And it was from there that the passion to get into advertising grew. After I worked for some time, close to a year, as a sales rep. You know, when you're a sales rep, the conditions were if you don't sell, then you don't get paid. So that gave us, or gave me, the courage to work so hard. But also, I was able to work hard because of maybe the background, the way I was brought up, having grown from the village where we could walk 1 hour, 30 minutes going to school as a child in the morning. Actually, I called someone from the village today to just help me to give the clear information, the distance from the village to the school. And the gentleman tells me that, no, that distance nowadays is too long. You can't walk the way we used to walk. I said, what has happened? Have you reduced? Have you cut to bring it short? He said, no, now we have transport. So I grew up from a place called Nega Nega, and in the village, we could walk 1 hour, 30 minutes to 2 hours going to school. That which looked to be a punishment, little did I know that God was preparing me for such a time as this, that I'll be able to establish something for myself and be able to help the people that are working with us and those that we are helping in the community. So having worked for that advertising company as a sales representative, the company was located near Zamtel House. We could walk, literally walking, from Zamtel House all the way up to where Zambian Breweries is, and in the industrial area. Walking to that place. And you find that the whole day you have no food, but in your mind, there's this desire that I just have to make it. There's nothing else that I have to do apart from me scoring. So the interest grew out of that place. And after that, I went again to another advertising company. I remained within the industry because I developed this interest. And I also saw certain gaps which were there, which I believed since I couldn't continue with this particular company, let me go to this company. Maybe the frustration that I'm receiving finally to come to an end because we'll be able to give the good service to the customers. And when we continued, things didn't go the way I had expected. Just coming out of college, coming out of the street, having no job. That was my first time to come and settle in Lusaka. And things were a bit hard. But I said, I just have to make it because this is the only way. To cut the long story short, after having worked for that company, we could go. Even before we go, when I went to the second company, they would buy us airtime. They give you talk time to be able to make phone calls. Now I realized that every time on Monday morning, someone has to rush to go and buy airtime. So in my mind, I was like, if we are experiencing this situation at this company where every morning someone has to go and buy airtime, how many companies are facing the similar challenge? So as I went about to do the business for advertising as a sales rep, I also started asking those companies how they handle the issue of talk time for their employees. And I was told by 3 or 4 companies that yes, on a Monday morning they would buy airtime for their employees and give them so that the whole week they will have airtime for them to start calling. So that also was an opportunity for me. While I'm busy working, I have this job, I also start something. I don't know if you are getting it. So that also helped me. And because of that, but how did I also manage to be able to identify certain opportunities along the way? Having grown also from the village where you are taking care of cows, there comes a time that this area, the cows have finished the grass for them as they were grazing. So it is up to you now, the one who is heading or the head, to look for new areas where tomorrow or next week you are going to start taking your cattle. And that also helped us because as you go home, when it's late in the evenings, if you are taking the cows, before they could get in the kraal, they are still in need of grazing around, then the elder will be able to know that today, where you took these cattle, they are not satisfied, meaning there wasn't enough grass. So now, for fear of being punished or being beaten, you are forced to start looking for opportunities or for more areas for the cows to graze. And this helped me also, even when I came in town, to be able to identify opportunities. And once I identified this opportunity, that the same challenge we are facing in our organization of talk time, there's 1, 2, 3 companies that are facing. Then how, therefore, will I be able to fit in, solve that problem which is in that company, yet make something for myself? So I got into talk time business, ordering talk time. While I go for my work as a sales rep, I would also in my pocket carry airtime. And I knew which companies needed airtime at what point. So I'll make sure that my presentation at the office are done earlier enough for me to have ample time to go in the field and deliver that airtime. So the challenges I faced, companies started saying, no, we can't pay you as an individual, unless if you were to trade with us as a company. But I was just as an individual, Kelvin, with this desire to make it in the city. How therefore now do I align myself with someone who has a company so that I could start trading with these people? Of course, with few advice around, I ended up registering a small company as a business name for me to be able to trade with those people so that they are able to pay me, be it a check, then I'll go to the bank and deposit it, while I kept scoring at my company where I was working. But that should not mean you should start using or stealing time from the company. As Christians, that is not right. But even when I did that, I made sure that I had to score. I met my targets, actually even beyond. I was one of the highest performing employees. I kept on with that company. But one thing I have to tell you, in entrepreneurship, whatever you start with, whatever company you start with, it might not be the company that will see you through to the end. What is important is for you to start. Once you start, it gives you the courage, the confidence, even to venture to start looking for more opportunities than what you are having currently. So that really helped us. Of course, time came with technology and stuff like that. We started having challenges. We would go to the company and they tell you that, no, we have, for example, Airtel. We get direct top-up from Airtel. You go to this company, they'll tell you, no, actually, Zamtel, we have an arrangement with Zamtel. Every month or every week they send us airtime. What does that mean now? To me, it meant that business had to close. But before then, I had to make sure that I spread my wings. Instead of just with the companies there, I said, how else then? I looked within the church. There were a few youths who were not doing anything. I said, okay, I want to station a booth here, and I want to station a booth here and there in 5 spots. Are you willing to come on board? Out of what you sell, I'll give you a commission of this percentage. You know there isn't much in Airtel in terms of a percentage per unit. And those youths, they agreed. So while I was being employed, I was also an employer home where I come from. So I had in my area, I was one of the first people to have these booths dotted around. I had about 6 of them in Counter Square, Stage 1, Munali, and Shadley, as well as closer to Charleston. So when I knock off, I would rush home because I know that I'm also receiving my employees who are coming to give me cash, and we balance up the sales and stuff. First thing in the morning tomorrow, I assign one of them to go and deposit while I continue with the business. So that's how we started as in my entrepreneurial journey. What brought us or brought this business is what I said. With technology, few things came on board and that business got affected. But because I had already started, I had tested the waters, and I saw the freedom I was going to have had my business grew and continued. I looked at what else can I do. I was also using the same company I was working for to see the challenges that are within the organization. And once I noticed those challenges, then I asked myself, can it be true that the challenges we are facing here, we are the only ones facing these challenges? In my duty as I go, I ask few companies as well, how about this? How do you handle it? They'll tell me, no, we are having a challenge with this. That also was an opportunity. It can also apply to you who is seated here and those that are watching. It doesn't matter where you work from. As an entrepreneur, the mindset of an entrepreneur is always to hunt for opportunities. And how do you identify those opportunities? You look at the problems the people are facing in the society, the area where you come from. You look at the problems, even your organization. You might not be the only one who are facing, or the only ones that are facing that challenge. There could be others. Therefore, how do you come in to resolve that problem at a fee? And it's exactly what I did. I got into stationery because that is one of the challenges we are facing where I was working from. And after approaching few companies, it gave me the courage also to start pushing. Then there came a time I realized, even if I continue working, I think my passion is to do something for myself. And I decided to leave employment, to pursue that which I thought was within myself. And more also, I was motivated by the poverty back home. I knew that I'm in the city. Should anything go wrong, they'll call me back in the village. That things I had in the city just come and continue. And the phone calls or word of mouth had started, this information had started reaching me, that they needed me back home. So for me to justify my being in the city, I needed to do something. So I decided to get into the deep waters with little knowledge of how to swim. And I decided the only way I'll know how to swim is for me to get in the waters and start practicing swimming. And I got into this business where we registered the company. Now we are called Clear Advertising, because that one for talk time and stationery, it couldn't perform the way we had envisioned at first. So we got into this business. Now, what helped us even in this same business when we started? I know most of us will always look at capital. How then do I start a business when I don't have capital? I go to the bank. Yes, they'll request for your business plan. They'll request for collateral. Where will I get it for me to be able to get the finance that I needed? We got into this without having any money. The only thing we had, even as I was going around to work, was my reputation. The encouragement that I would like to give each one of you, wherever you are working right now, a good name, once you create it, treasure it, that is your brand. Once people they know, they trust you. Once people they know, they trust this brand, you don't have to doubt. This is an iPhone. It has positioned itself that is a top brand, to a point where I see an iPhone, I want to buy an iPhone. I might not start requesting to, now let me test, how does it work? We already know how powerful this iPhone is. Why? Because it is a strong brand on the market. As Christians, how we conduct ourselves, how we carry ourselves, this also helps, because you never know where you land yourself. You never know whom you are going to desire to give you something that you are looking for in life. So because of the reputation that I had, even those clients who were difficult clients, yes, I went to them to talk to them. Those who could not do business with us because of few things which were not okay, that we disappointed them in terms of delivery. I saw that as an opportunity as well. And I went back. Look, yes, we had these challenges. They told me, Kelvin, we can't deal with you. We can't deal with your company. You've really messed us up. You've disappointed us. And I had to tell them and to be open with them. And I told them what I was up to and that I had started something for myself. And because of that, I'll dedicate my time with the people that I intend to put together, that we are a team and be able to service them. And I don't have money. But you are in need of this service because look at your signage. Look at your prints, they are faded. And you need a solution for this problem. This has an effect on your image. Just like you preachers, you stand here, you are preaching. That is why for me, really, as a Christian, when you get into business, you should not fail. These are the things that elders do time and again. Evangelists, as you go to sell your books, preachers, pastors, as they stand to preach, it's more or less like that is, you are selling. Of course, the only difference is you are not telling people to buy the gospel with money. But you are inviting them to come. You explain to them how bad this world is. How life outside of Christ is destructive. And then they realize that, yes, truly, we need Jesus in our lives. And then you don't just leave them like that. What do? You invite them to accept Jesus Christ. So it's the same way. I go to this company. I look at their signage is faded and all things are wrong. I show them and they see that really there's a problem here. Then I say, I have a solution. Now, for me to be able to provide the solution to this problem, I need you to come with me to the table. I do not have money, but trust me as I have moved with you. All I need is a down payment for me to be able to execute this. Once you are happy with the quality, then I'll be able to do what? You give me the balance. And we started just like that. We started with nothing to where we are now, that we have grown as a company, to where we are now, that we have a workforce, about 15 of them. All these are qualified people in their own respective fields. How did we start? We started with nothing. And we were able to identify opportunities, the gaps which existed in the market, and be able to offer a solution. So it does not mean this world is so perfect that everything is okay. If I was, for example, a janitor, I come to this place. As I drive, dropping my kids down this side, yes, I can point out few things which, if I needed a job, I would come and say, I can do a piecework. I know you have a janitor, but maybe he's tied up. I can do a piecework for this and be able to return these things, be the pavers or something like that. I would have earned a living out of that. So it's about as you are working, you are working, you go in your market, always your mind should be, is there anything that I can do around this area? Take me to any place, I'll be able to make money. It doesn't matter whether they sell billboards, they need advertising, or they'll need carpenter, or they'll need doormats, I'll make money. Actually, I was making mats before I came to the city. I could go to the river and get those reeds. I was making mats. What do you call it? They are mats, right? Made out of reeds. That's what I used to make to support my school as a little child in the village. So all that, I was being prepared for a moment to be able to identify opportunities even as I came to the city. So once those opportunities have been identified, make use of them, see how you can provide a solution. Of course, at a fee, you also need to look at what is the market doing in line with the same and be able to do what to offer that. So the advertising part, that's how we managed to come up, and we are able to grow stage by stage. Where we are now, I can confidently say we have grown with proper machinery when it comes to printing, as well as making of billboard structures, those things that you have seen on the website. At no point have we even gotten end loan or external funding. It is about discipline. Once you start, yes, by the grace of God, money will come, but it's about discipline. Without discipline, today you come, you grow big, you buy whatever vehicle you want, but tomorrow you are not going to exist, because that is the company money. It is not your money. And the company also exists as an independent or a separate entity that has to be supported and grow. So if there is no discipline, that also will affect you. So there could be someone here really who thinks they have an idea, but they do not have capital. You don't have to wait until you have capital for you to start. You can start with the little that you have. It can be an idea, like we had an idea. I had an idea. And from a simple idea without any money, here we are today, that we are forced to reckon with. Some of the organizations, the companies that we are dealing with, are big companies from outside. They've trusted us, and most of those companies, they've been with us for more than 3 years. They've never left us. Why? Because we know what we exist for. We are not here to make money today and tomorrow we disappear. We are here to build a brand. We are here to make our brand so strong as clear advertising. How then can we, even you and I, be able to establish something that will outlive you? It is the aspect of discipline, persistence, and be able to focus and remain focused. So quickly, before I allow, if there are few questions, let me just run through certain things in line with what I went through, how it helped me, and how also you can learn some lessons out of that and be able to build something. You also need to take advantages of certain things that are happening around, be it in town or outside town. Yes, you might be working, you have a good job. But is it enough for you? Or is it okay? Is that all that there is about you? Or there are few things that you can do about yourself? You might be having a good job. Yes, you have the whole lot of money. Maybe you do not have an idea how to start something to start generating extra income. You might not be in agriculture, but go in the villages, for example, Mumbwa. You have a lot of farmers who are struggling, but you have money. Why not talking to those farmers? I can provide you with money so that you buy chemicals for your crops, or you buy seed and whatever. You just agree with them. And a lot of people are doing that. Others, they might call it an outgrower scheme. This can also be an avenue that you can use. You are in town here, you do not have a farm, but you can participate into agriculture as well through approaching those farmers who might not have money to buy the input, those farmers who might not have money to buy the chemicals, but they have a vast piece of land. They have animals or tractors. You can see how you can talk to them and be able to support, so that during the time of harvesting, you go and get your bags, be it maize or soybeans or whatever, you take to the millers. You make money. You make that as an annual event. Food processing is one avenue that we can also utilize. You look at really, what can you do with what is prevailing on the market? How best can you add value? You have tomatoes, which most of the time we just go to ruin and stuff. Get those, make pest and stuff like that. It helps you as an entrepreneur. Always have the mind to look at what problems are existing in town, in your communities, even in church. You can use those as a way of providing a solution at a fee and be able to come up or to have something that will really help you. So always there are gaps. Many of the times you hear the government are saying, this time we are concentrating, for example, on this industry to be the driver for the economy. And you know that once government makes such pronouncements, there will be a lot of money circulation in that particular industry. So see how you can position yourself and be able to provide, be it services or products in that particular industry. And that will also help you to make a living, as opposed to just being seated and waiting. Maybe I don't have capital, or maybe, it's difficult for me to find a job. We have a lot of people who are qualified, but they can't find a job, or they can't find jobs. Was it last week or the other week? We had a number of doctors who were protesting at the ministry that we want to be employed, teachers, and all such kind of things. It's not just in Zambia. Everywhere there is a problem or a challenge when it comes to employment. But are you going to sit down and wait until the government employs you, or until company A or X, they call for interviews, and you can start with something that you already have and be able to come up with an idea which you are going to use to generate some income? As SDAs, as we move around, most of you move around, we know that we are very particular with our diet. But the challenge that we have, how best can every one of us access the SDA diet? That is the challenge. I go during the weekends, I want to buy something for my kids, be it pizza. I have to emphasize, please, no pork, eh? They even tell you, no, it's strictly halal. That's how our friends have positioned themselves. But as SDAs, we have a very unique diet, a diet that is so healthy. But how have we managed to come up with something where we are able to reach out to the masses even through our diet? Right now around this area, if I want to eat, I have to go to a certain restaurant. I don't even know, maybe the same fish I'm saying, okay, I'll eat fish. Before they even put that fish, that's the pot they were using to prepare the pork. We haven't utilized this area. So these are some of the things, you people who have money, you look at, if you are busy, you look at in the church, who has done catering. Come up with one or two people, bring them together. I want to venture into this area. I have the money. I want to get into business. And I want you people to help me. Oh, let's come up together. You form a partnership. You register the company. Whether you are 3 or 4 of you. You are the main financier, while you have one who is a trained chef or who has done catering. That also helps. Once you start here, don't be single-minded that you only be operating from here. There are people who are eating all over the place. You have one branch here, you have one restaurant in this place. You also look at which other area is there a number of people. This time, we used to all of us operate from town. But North Mid, Rhodes Park, all those areas have become commercial areas as opposed to residential areas. Meaning you are assured of people who are going to be eating in such places. You can start from here, you open another branch that side. So we can utilize our diet as SDAs to come up with a restaurant that will be a reputable restaurant. We have friends who come out from outside. When they come here, they are very strict. They'll ask you, last time I was in Solwezi with someone from outside, we looked around, we couldn't find a space to eat. Then he had to, okay, let me look for this restaurant. Yes, it was there in Solwezi. Why was he looking for that particular one? Because where he comes from, he knows that's how that franchise does their food and everything. But for SDAs, I go outside the country, we all have issues. So why can't we, as a church, we have people who have money, come up and have these restaurants dotted around? This will also help us. Sometimes as an individual, you can also start from where you work. That also offers as a ground for you to come up with an enterprise. Like I have said, I've worked in an advertising firm. And it was from there that the passion grew. Up to now that we have established something for ourselves. And we stand shoulder to shoulder with the companies where we used to work. When they go for their presentations with their sales team, even me, I'm seated there with our sales team. And sometimes we have even gotten those deals, we've won the tender as opposed to them. So it's not about how long you've been in the game. It is about what are the unique services that you are providing. How better can you do it than the next person? So those are some of the things that really helped us. So you can start with what you already know, your work experience, where you're working from. That also can help you as a kickstart for your business. If you're already in business, you also look at how best can you grow. Is it enough for you to just have one office in Lusaka, while your services are demanded outside Lusaka? In Luapula, your services are demanded in Solwezi. Why not having an office there and be able to service the mines that side? If you are selling vitumbua by the corner and almost everyone comes to buy vitumbua from you, why not thinking of that your firstborn sister, child or sister, who is just seated at home? She even got pregnant because all the time she's just seated at home. Why not empowering her and say, okay, this is the area where we are. I go to the market, you bring your friends home, you are just playing around. I'm going to have one place of this same nature in Charleston by Charleston Market. You also be early in the morning, you go with the fritters, you'll be baking the fritters or doing the fritters just there. The income she's making, the income you are making, it helps you to grow the family. Entrepreneurship doesn't really mean someone has to come or the government has to come and load money over you. Actually, the free money that comes our way, in most cases, we abuse it. There are few businesses which have grown where someone is just seated and someone comes and gives you a lot of money, then you make something sensible out of that. That is why most of the people who win the lotteries, they go broke few years down the line. Why? It's not something that they planned. They have no experience in whatever they intend to do. But you, if you are to start working, that will really, really help you to be able to. So we have identified you need to find the problems that are existing in your community, where you're working from. If you're an accountant, you don't have a job, start going around this area. There are a lot of companies. Ask who does their books. You know, you can go there as a part-time person and be able to help them. One of the things you can look around is, this time people are so busy, very, very busy. Why not getting things, be it foodstuffs, tomatoes and everything, you buy them and bring to their offices at a certain fee. When they knock off, they go with their own things. That also is an opportunity. I was talking to my church the other time when I was given time to present over the aspect of this person has a shop. They drive every morning, they park their car by the shop. When they knock off, they drive off. And there is a store that was coming in our area by Munalimo. I said, this store which is coming is a well-known brand. Everyone in the compound would want to be associated with them. So for the next 3 months when this store opens, you are going to be affected. Your sales will go low because everyone, even if they want to buy bread, they'll go to that shop and come out of that shop with a branded plastic bag. So how best then can you be able to safeguard your businesses? You have a car. Why not approaching the Chiabi family and ask them, how much do you use of the groceries per week, per month? They'll tell you if it's 1,000. You get those groceries, put them in your car, deliver to the Chavis. If it's within the radius of 5 kilometers, you lose nothing. What have you done? You are blocking the Chavis from going, for example, to a store, be it ShopRite or whatever. They'll be buying from you. Why? Because you have already locked them. Instead of you just burning fuel, using the fuel for kitchen parties, you can use that fuel to generate something. And I also told them extra miles. I said, when you go, when this store opens, what will happen? Everyone, even if you are buying a loaf of bread, they would come home in the compound with plastic bags. Eventually, the area will be suffocated. The drainages will start being blocked and everything. It is an opportunity for you to start blocking the sewers. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm dressed up like this. You don't know where this money has come from. Is it going to be registered that I was unblocking sewers? No, it's not going to be. So that already is an opportunity. If you do not have money, talk to someone whom you think in the church they have the money and say, look, I'm willing to work this way. Why can't we come together, pump in some money, I'll do the work. That already is an opportunity. This is an election year. Some of you people, you have vehicles at home. Maybe you are only 3, but you have 5, 6 vehicles. Why not getting 1 or 2 vehicles? Because we know each election year, ECZ wants vehicles to use their 4x4s to do whatever their business is during elections and everything. You put those 2 vehicles. You know, after elections, you'd have earned an income than just the vehicles being parked at home. Some of you have networks with these that are MPs who will be standing for them to be members of parliament and stuff. You know that during campaigns, there are T-shirts flying around, vehicles are branded. For example, you have all those networks. Why not talking to them? Okay, I can connect you to someone who is in this business of branding and stuff like that. As long as they trust you. That is why a good name is so important. If they trust you, then you come to Clear Advertising. You say, Clear Advertising, I have a fleet of 10 vehicles which I want to brand for this minister or for whatever. And I'll tell you that, okay, let us agree on a commission rate. You bring those vehicles, we brand 10 vehicles, whatever money you realize, we give you whatever percentage that would have agreed. And since we also brand it, we do T-shirts printing, we do flyers, it will be a total package. The moment that MP is walking out, he's walking out with a branded vehicle, he's walking out with a batch of flyers, he's walking out with a batch of T-shirts. And also we have billboards dotted around. We also work out that package. We give you a commission. What have you done? Out of your networks, instead of you just seated at home or whatever you are doing, even if you are working, you can still do that. It's just a phone call. Kelvin Chiavi, I'm sending MP so-and-so to your office. Whatever you're going to discuss, please let us see the quotations. Then we are going to agree on a what? On a commission. You make money out of that. So use your connections wisely, and that will really help you. Social media. How do you use your social media? Do you just finish bundles, Facebooking, looking at who is dancing, looking at who is what, how many cases of coronavirus? You can use social media, Facebook and the likes, for you to be able to generate money. So all these things, when put together, It will help you reduce the poverty levels in your community, in your family. It will help you also to be able to support the work of God. As long as where you are, you look around the situation. Yes, you might be working, you are a CEO. Is there something else that you can do with the money that is just heaped in the bank? Yes, today it can be 10 million which is seated in your account. I can guarantee you 6 months down the line, the value will no longer be 10 million. After all, we have seen how our kwacha and dollar relationship is going. But if you are to invest that money into something which is money generating income, it will really, really help you to generate something that will be far much greater than you having the money just seated in the account. Lastly, I want to mention this. Our God is an investor. Yes. Only that he doesn't deal with finances. He deals with souls. So what he does, he comes from heaven. He has all the resources. He is looking for people on earth whom he can partner with, because God can't come and establish a business here. He's looking for people he can partner with. But before he partners with you, he does a due diligence on you. Can he trust you with his resources? Can he trust you that when he blesses you, you'll be able to take care of his people? Can he trust you that with what you are going to realize out of the partnership with him, his work, which is the gospel, is going to be pushed forward? If God knows and he has seen after doing the due diligence that he can trust you, then he's going to bless you, even in your business with finances, because he knows that once he invests in you, it is not a loss, but he's going to have a return on that investment. And it's exactly the what he's in. Look at Matthew 25, the parable of the talents. It's exactly what he did. We get the narrative from there. And as you start as a business, I'm not going to guarantee you that it's going to be easy. Challenges will be there, but what will help you to push and go forward is your faith in God and how much you'd have allowed God to play a role in your business or in your life. As I end here, I was trying to catch up with time because of the next presentation. Maybe there's a question before I sit down. To those that are here, yes. Yes, my sister. Thank you very much. She's talking about identifying opportunities. And I can tell you that in every crisis, there's always a way. And most of the people, when there's a crisis, is when they make a lot of money. We've heard that's when actually the switch happens on the rich, those who were rich, the tables turn, those who were at the bottom, they become the more richer than those. Why? It's by identifying what can I do during this crisis and be able to provide a solution because of the problems that are existing. Maybe I can entertain one hand. Yes, that will be the last one. Okay. Okay. The leader is saying those, are you able to come? Thank you. Is there another one? Okay. Okay, let's make her the last one so that we close. Thank you.
Oh, good afternoon. Um, Mine is a bit of a concern. I'm a literature evangelist, and of course, you know, we sell books. Ever since the COVID-19 epidemic, most sales have gone really down. And as a result, you see, you can be compromised even on your faith. There are certain literature evangelists now who have turned into booksellers, instead of being a literature evangelists. Because we know before we become literature evangelists, we are trained as how to present ourselves to these homes where you go and knock. We are trained also to be really business people, in a sense that if you go to a home, even if they offer you a drink or something, you don't become too familiar. You don't take a Fanta or anything. You have to go there because you are in business. But our sales have gone down. And what we have noticed, people prefer to buy worldly things than even maybe, for example, the book of Daniel reveals the future, the truth, and all those. Those books have suffered. It may be a bit of books that are in cooking and good food. Yes, you might make a bit of a sale, but it hasn't been there. Then I am a single parent. I've got a daughter who is very good at marketing, when you are talking about marketing. She has gone into fresh flowers. And within about 4 months, I've never seen such marketing in my life. She'd put up about 3 centers in these malls and then got Mutumbi. She told me, I don't mind because it's a service. I have to give people flowers. And sometimes she would even drive at night to go and maybe Zambia Daily Mail to go and pack flowers, which are wreath, going to Livingstone or going to where. And I've never seen such skill. I was so impressed. And there's a lot of money because people are having weddings. People are dying every time. But there's one thing lacking. Much as she was a Christian, baptized and all that, now she has took a, because she's gone really in marketing and interacting so much that the money was really coming. Now comes the big blow. God has told us to return tithe and offering, which my daughter wasn't doing. I kept advising her, you see, when God opens the door, he has opened that door, you have to adhere to his commands. But she took it by her might and strength. And a few weeks ago, she has suffered a very big blow. This place, people have become jealous, so they want to grab that place from her. She goes this side, so inside she gets very frustrated. But I only knew one thing, that what God speaks is the truth. And if only she took that on board, together with her skill that God has given her, she would have made a big breakthrough. So these are the things that most people, even as Christians, they find it very difficult to marry, obeying God and going purely for business because you want to make a good living for yourself. So that in itself gives me a problem in my home. I say, now, I'm a parent, yes. Yes, I can advise, but I'm not the Holy Spirit to change the situation as it is. So what advice can I have? How I've been on my knees, I've been trying all, but I'm failing.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. In 2 minutes' time, because I'm eating in someone's time. Counsels on Stewardship, page 148. Ellen White says, "The desire to accumulate wealth is an original affection of our nature, implanted there by our Heavenly Father for noble ends." So when we are talking about income generating activities, it's not something that we've invented ourselves, that we get credit. It is the desire that God has planted in us for a noble end or for a noble cause, and that is to do His will, support His gospel. He tells the children of Israel that as I take you, you are going to settle and stay and be well. You build houses, your heads will prosper, your cattle will start producing, and you sit comfortable like your daughter. She'll make all the monies and stuff. But God says in Deuteronomy chapter 8, verse 17 to 18, but even after you have settled, you have accumulated, you have acquired, you have built, your business are doing fine, you are crisscrossing the continent, the world. But remember the Lord your God, for it is He who gives you the ability to produce wealth. It is not how much you are connected. It is not how much you work hard. It is not about Kelvin Chiabi, how much he markets for clear advertising that the company has grown. It is the divine hand of God that is behind me, that is helping me to go beyond the competition and be able to provide a product or a service which will still call more people to come. Are we together? God will prosper you the moment you agree to align with Him. You remember I said He's an investor. He's looking for local people to partner with. He has all the resources. He has come from outside of this world. He has come with all the monies and everything that is needed for your prosperity. All He's looking for is someone He can partner with. But before He does that, He does a due diligence on you. Once He's convinced you are the right people, He blesses you. But He says, even after He has blessed you, never at one point should you think, I have done all this by myself. Why should I help these others? Go and work for yourselves. Let your children also study hard like mine. God will start dealing with you in a negative way. So you need to realize that it is the grace of God that helps you to accumulate. It is the grace of God that propels you to go up. Lastly, even during COVID, you can still sell books. All you need to know is, during this, how are the people's emotions? Everyone is scared of dying. Because here, where I am, I don't know, maybe I've touched something, someone who is what he has had, and I'll get infected. You understand? So everyone is scared of dying. So you look at the books that you have. Which books really gives you hope in such a situation? And those are the books that you are going to start taking for people to start buying. So it's in every situation, ma'am, that there's a way that you as an entrepreneur, you can still make something out of it at a minimal fee, which will help you and your family, eventually help the church through your tithes and offerings, and help those that are disadvantaged. But above all, brothers and sisters, God has blessed us with so many opportunities. All we need to do is sit where you are. Be it you who are watching us from your comfort of your homes, you who are seated here. What is the problem in my community, in the company where I work from, even in the church? Once you identify the problem, look at how best can I meet that problem and be able to offer a solution. Like the way Mom has said, food those that are in hospitals and everything, you see how best you can really utilize that, and that will really help. And at the end of the day, we'll see the church of God going forward. When we say we want to have building, our building structure should not take 20 years. Why? Because all of us have income generating activities. When you say we want to send evangelists to Sioma, to whatever, to wherever. It's just a matter of asking, how much does it cost? Why? Because the membership of the church are equipped with income generating activities, entrepreneurial skills and stuff like that. We are able to take the work of God and let it go forward, because that is why we exist. Tomorrow, Kelvin Shiab will not be here. But if I have done what I could have done, then God will be happy at the end of the day. May God bless us. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, brethren. We want to thank our brother for such informative lesson. We are going to look at debt management. Now, these lessons are brought before you in order to ensure that we have believers that achieve financial freedom. That you are not financially troubled like the world is out there. And so, one of the problems that exists and is seemingly becoming a challenge is that of debt. People owing others. And that has not spared the church. And I think it is very imperative that we talk about it, so that where it is a problem, we fix it. Where it is not a problem, we carry on with it. But before I proceed, probably I'm speaking to converted believers. Let me just carry a survey here amongst these one in the building here. How many of us don't owe anyone or any institution? You don't owe anyone or any institution. Okay? One brother there does not owe anyone or any institution. Maybe we would ask him, haven't you borrowed before? You have. Okay. So debt is very common amongst believers. It's very, very common amongst believers. Many of us owe. And how much impact does it have to us as Christians? And that's what we shall look at. And so today, there are three things we shall try to achieve as we speak about debt. The first one is, what is the position of Scripture regarding debt? What is the position of Scripture regarding debt? In case Scripture has no problem with debt, what should we borrow? If we decide to borrow, what kind of borrowing should we do? And finally, there could be some people here or out there listening who are debt trapped. How do we help them? How do we help such a one? Now, debt, simply put, is simply spending on things you cannot afford. Are we together, brothers and sisters, here and at home? Debt, you can try to describe it in whatever way, but debt on a personal level, which is what we shall focus on, personal debt, is simply spending on things you cannot afford. I cannot afford driving a high-range vehicle, and because I cannot afford it, I go and borrow it. I go and get debt to buy it. And so, there are many believers who are living a life that they cannot be able to afford because they've gone the way of debt. Now, the world also out there will tell you that you cannot succeed without borrowing. I'm not sure they've heard that. That you see, in the era we are living in order for you to progress, you need to borrow somewhere, somehow. You need to borrow somewhere, somehow. And in the current times that we are living in, you find that household income is static, and yet the cost of living is going up. And so you can easily begin to convince yourself that there are certain things you cannot do until you borrow. For example, it has become difficult to say, I'm going to save for me to be able to buy a house or to build a house. I'm not going to manage to take my children to school until I borrow. And so the world is imparting into us this, that we cannot be able to survive without living on some form of debt. And many of us have danced to that tune. Have danced that tune of saying you cannot live without borrowing. Romans chapter 12, verse 1 says, do not be conformed to this world. And I think that one area where believers have become conformed to this world is how much they have gone into debt. Now, let me mention to you that among the working class, debt is slowly becoming one of the reasons why people are becoming unfaithful in offerings. Because they have borrowed to an extent that they have no money to return as offerings. And so it is a problem worth talking about. There are some who would even want to return tithe. They can't, because all the money has been committed into debt. And so how you manage personal debt is very important on how you shall serve your God in tithes and offerings. If not properly managed, debt can actually begin to eat you spiritually. And so we said, what does the Bible say about debt? Now, I've perused through scripture and I've come across 25, 27 or so texts that refers to debt. And what I pick from scripture is that the Bible does not necessarily condemn debt. It is not sin to borrow. But the many references are found in scripture about debt are negative. The many scriptures I've come across that speaks about debt are negative. We shall pick Proverbs 22 verse 7. That says, the rich rule over the poor. Proverbs 22 verse 7. The rich rule over the poor, and the borrower is a slave to the lender. Now, if you look at public debt, and this is debt like Zambia owes somebody. Zambia owes an institution there. We are indirectly ruled by certain countries because of the money that we owe them. You cannot come and begin to speak about certain powers out there, because by speaking about them, you are jeopardizing the commitment the country has made over those institutions. If you look, for example, how much the American government is spending on the health sector of this country, you can't easily just wake up and begin to make noise about them. If you look at how much Zambia has borrowed from China, you will be disciplined for speaking ill against them. The rich rule over the poor because they have made certain commitments that bind them to behave in a certain manner. To behave in a certain manner. And today, if you speak about the last part of this verse, that says the borrower is a slave. The lender is a slave to the borrower. The lender is a slave to the borrower. when you owe, whatever it is, you become bound by those things. For example, if you are going to borrow money from the bank and they tell you that we are going to hold your house as collateral, you have already become a slave of the bank. You have already become a slave of the bank because the bank can come at any time and say, no, I think you have defaulted. We are getting that house. And the slavery at times comes in that as a human being, you cannot make certain moves. An opportunity has come, you cannot be able to grab it because you have commitments that you have made. You have enslaved yourself because of what you are owing. So we are saying, the Bible does not necessarily tell us not to borrow, but it suggests that borrowing is not good. And I would want to recommend to you that if you can, avoid the debt. If you can, avoid the debt. Because it is not a right decision in terms of your financial health. All right, now, let me say this. To simply say do not borrow is very easy. But there are situations where you just find yourself you have to borrow. That is why you find in the room, literally everybody has borrowed at some time. There are situations where you can't just avoid it. You have to borrow. For example, you have a death in the family. You have a death in the family. And the coffin has to be bought and there's no money. You have no option but to look around and say, who can help me? You have a sickness in the home. And there are medical bills, and you just cannot afford to pay for those medical bills. You have no option but to say, you know what, for me to manage this, let me look at my neighbor and borrow. So, as much as you are saying, avoid borrowing, there are unavoidable situations where you cannot avoid to pay. You cannot be able to avoid to pay. At times, it's just an issue of reduction in income. Because of COVID, people undercutting jobs and all such kind of things. And you're caught up into that. And before you realize you have no job and you have no savings, what do? The next thing is to begin to borrow. All right, so there are situations which we need to say, here we need to be able to borrow. But let me mention this to you, that even those situations, if us as a church reach out to one another's problems, nobody is going to borrow in our midst. If my elder here has a funeral, my elder should not borrow because there are the brethren around. They should be able to come in and help. So even the so-called unavoidable situation, if only we are one brother's keeper, we should be able to avoid. If somebody is sick and there are medical bills to be paid, brothers are there, sisters are there. Let them come and help. One of the reasons we borrow is because we have a weak network in terms of helping one another as Christians. It is one for himself, God for all. So even the so-called unavoidable situation, if only we could behave in a certain manner as Christians, as expected by God, to help one another, we are not going to borrow. Now, I've indicated to you that there are situations you cannot avoid borrowing. But many of the borrowings that we see around, they are as a result of a consumption lifestyle. A lifestyle where people go out to borrow because they want to live a certain life. There are people here, or probably listening from homes, who should not be driving by cycling. But because they've tried to adopt a certain lifestyle, they go and borrow. There are people who live in upmarket housing, who should be living in medium or low income housing. But because they've decided to borrow, they appear to be what they are not. So at times borrowing is perpetuated by trying to live a particular lifestyle. And that has proved to be a problem. And it is very common even among us believers. And the problem is because we have gone into a life of competition among believers. When I see my friend living a particular lifestyle, I want to follow in, not knowing that that lifestyle has been financed by debt. And so when they go to sleep at night, all they're thinking about is that how am I going to sustain this particular lifestyle? How am I going to pay? When they hear they're retrenching at their workplace, there's a lot of stress because now you're asking yourself, how am I going to pay this? So our lifestyle, brothers and sisters, we need to look at them very carefully. Some of them are the reasons why we are borrowing. Our lifestyle are the reasons why we are borrowing. Let us not get into a consumption lifestyle that is driven by borrowing. And sometimes borrowing is because people are just unable to sacrifice. People are unable to sacrifice. Now, listen, if I'm going to go to a bank and borrow a vehicle to pay over a period of 3 years, what is the problem with me saving that money I'm paying to the bank so that after 3 years I'm going to buy that vehicle? Or I want to build a house and I go to the bank and borrow. I'm going to pay the bank for 5 years. What is the problem with me? Every month I keep that money and save it so that after 4 years I can be able to build that house. The problem is because there's no lack of sacrifice among us believers. We walk in a shop, we want to buy everything we find there. There is no culture of saving among us believers. And as a result, we think the only way out is to go and borrow. Now listen, the people that borrow money, the lenders, remember they are in the business of lending. They are in the business of making money out of money. And you are the client. And each time you borrow, have you ever asked yourself a question? How much interest am I going to pay on this particular facility? A lot of money that is meant to be offering in the church of God has gone to pay as interest to banks. Very painful reality, but that's what's happening. A lot of money that is meant to come to enhance the work of God has gone out to pay interest to the bank. Remember, we're in a society now where interest is 30-40%. Huge interest. And when you borrow many times, you never think about God. And that's the sad reality about it. We never think about God. When we go in to borrow, we never sit and say, but where is God in this picture of this facility I'm asking? That is why I would recommend to you, if you can, avoid debt. Avoid debt. It can begin to eat you spiritually over time. And you know, debt can be addictive, by the way. Debt can be addictive. You borrow, you finish paying, you see an opportunity, you borrow again. And before you realize you have lived all your life paying interest to financial institutions. And you know, in the past, it used to be difficult to get finance. It used to be very difficult. When you are growing up, to get in a bank and to say they're giving you a loan, it used to be a problem. Not anymore. Money is everywhere. There are money sharks everywhere. There are money sharks everywhere. There's now village banking everywhere, giving opportunity for people to go out and borrow. So, brothers and sisters, debt management is very important for you to be able to prosper as a good steward. It's very important for you to be able to prosper as a good steward. And here we've identified that there is irresponsible borrowing at times that happens. And as I tried to get to the end of my presentation here, it wasn't a long one, it was a short one. I wanted you to understand the issue of debt and how we deal with it as Christians. And thus far we are saying if you can afford, avoid it. But again, we recognize that there are people in our midst that are already deep in debt. You cannot rule out that. All right? They are already deep into debt. They literally have no disposable income. All their income has been committed to financial institutions. How do you help them? How do you help them? They could be here, they could be listening to us from home, but they need to be helped. Because if you don't help them, these are the people that you stand here every other time and say, please, be faithful in tithes and offerings. They look around, there's nothing. Before the salary comes, it is finished. And you live to condemn them, You don't need to condemn them, but to sit down and understand what is the problem. And help them fix the problem. I'll tell you my story. In the late 90s, I decided to go and work in the diaspora. And when I got there, I got quite a very good job. And a week into the job, my boss comes to me and tells me, you know, the position that you have here, you can see that many of your juniors are driving here. There is no way you'll be coming to work on a bus. And I tell the man, I says, but where do I start from? I've been working for a week. Where do I start from to begin to think of driving? And the man tells me, no, we shall facilitate, don't worry. If you're just interested, you shall facilitate. But for you to get the respect from the people around here, you can't be coming on a bus. Then these juniors of yours are giving you a lift. They find you walking, and they're giving you a lift. Within 2 weeks, I had a showroom vehicle on credit. You know, a showroom vehicle is a brand new car, not these second-hand vehicles. My first month was committed to paying that facility. As I worked around, I realized to say my colleagues were living a certain lifestyle. You know, me, I was still staying in Seven's Quarter. You know, from my Zambian background, where when you start working, you start from a Seven's Quarter, is it? And begin to pick up from there. But when you get there, find our colleagues, right from the first job, he's renting a 2-bedroom apartment. The second month, I found myself an apartment and had no furniture in the house. My friend comes home and finds there's nothing in there. The guy says, no, but why are you suffering? Why do you want to be sitting on the floor when you can have furniture in the house? How? Don't worry. We'll help you. As long as you have a pay slip, you can be able to get furniture. Third month into my employment, 70% of my earnings were committed to financial institutions. 70% of my revenue was finished. And because, you know, I couldn't drive this brand new vehicle looking like somebody who's coming from nowhere, I needed to keep up appearances. Before I realized, I had to begin now even to get clothes on credit. You reach a point where there is a problem at home, here, back home. There's a problem. They're asking for 100 kwacha. You can't afford. At church, you know, you are this very vibrant young man who seems to be reading very well, who seems to be a matured Christian. Time comes and says, no, we want you to become in this position. They go and check you are not returning tithes and offerings. You are finished. I lived that life for some time. For some time. When I have to come back home, I need to get a soft loan. Because my salary cannot sustain it. To fuel my vehicle from there to come here, and when I come here, I have to keep up appearances. And that's many of the people that you see coming from out of this country. They come here looking like, they've made it. But guys are living on credit. That is why. Do not admire people before you see their bank statement. Before you see their bank statement, please, we are all equal. Are you getting me? Yes, we are all equal. Because some of these people that look like they are flashy, they are not. They are living on borrowed money. They are living on debt. I was caught up in that situation for some time. Until one day, I woke up and I said, look, this can't continue. When I come home here, I find my friends are speaking of Nienda kuploti kwendo manga. I look around, I can't even afford a plot. I had to make a decision and say, you know what, this can't continue. I need to stop it. And it had to be a very difficult decision. And this is what I would want to encourage those of you that could be in a situation like I am. Because I don't believe I'm the only one. And I don't believe I'll be the only one. One day you could find yourself in that situation. How do you deal with it? I had to make certain changes. I realized my life was based on people around me. I now had to sit and say, you know what? I came here alone with my own suitcase. And let me look at myself and my God. And I began to cut down. The first thing I did was to go and get a buyer for the vehicle. And I sold it. And went and got a very small vehicle. I went and got a Nissan March. You know a Nissan March, eh? Yes, a Nissan March. From driving a Hilux, I went to drive a Nissan March. I paid off the bank, reduced my repayment there because cars lose value as you use it. I couldn't pay all of it. I paid up the bank and remained with only about 20% of the repayments. I had 80% of all that I was paying from the bank and was now my disposable income. I had to move now. I was living in a 3-bedroom apartment. I had to move from there to a servant's quarter. I had to start afresh. Very difficult and very painful, by the way. Because when people look at you now, they begin to think, what's wrong with this guy? I remember coming here driving a Nissan March for a wedding. And my colleagues were asking me to say, what is wrong with you? I told them, I'm on the way to higher ground. I cut a lot of the debt, and that created a lot of disposable income on my part. Within a short time, it was easy for me now to begin even to become faithful to God. I realized I had committed God's money to financial institutions, to furniture shops. I had to change the course of direction. 6 months into my adjustment, I was coming back home to buy my first plot. And I just didn't buy a plot, but I bought plots. Because I realized you need some level of self-sacrifice for you to be able to live debt-free. And I made certain difficult decisions. Many people cannot save because they want to please everybody. Remember I said, why can't you save that money so that after 1 year you buy what you want to buy? The reason is because at times you are surrounded by people around you who do not plan. Who do not plan. And they come to you at any time and ask, and their request is very genuine. You need to reach a point where you say, you know what, I've got a plan. And if you are not in my plan, I'm not going to listen to this. Come to me, it is a funeral. I'll listen to you. It's a sickness. I'll listen to you. You tell me I'm not paid, I'm paid in the next 3-4 days, give me something. I'll listen to you. But there are people who, like now, the grade 12 results came out. this parent knew that this child has to go to tertiary education. And they sat, not thinking about that child going to tertiary education. When that child passes now, that's when they want to come to you and say, let us take this, help us, so that this child goes to school. Very difficult decisions. But you need to make those decisions in order to achieve financial freedom. It does not mean that you should stop helping. No. You should help, but you should help responsibly. And so I cut off my cost. I moved in a servant's quarter. It means I had no room for furniture. So I had to sell off the furniture and pay off the furniture shop. Since that time, I've come to learn that you can grow an empire out of savings, not out of debt. The world will convince you that you need to borrow. I have grown an estate that has become so big without a single debt on it. When I go to sleep, I'm sleeping. My wife knows. When I go to sleep, she even says, you sleep too much. She'll get sick at night and I will not hear her. Because I sleep like a baby. I don't owe anybody. I don't owe anyone. Now, for parents, let me tell you this. Remember that verse I read in Proverbs 22 verse 7. That speaks the rich rule over the poor and the borrower is a slave to the lender. The verse before it is the one that says, train up a child in the way he should go. So that when he is grown, he will not depart from it. And one of the lessons you need to teach them is this lesson, which is found in verse 7. Teach your children to avoid debt. Debt can be inherited. You know, it can be inherited. My parents lived on debt. I also continue living on debt. Your children realize that our father was living on debt, and they also begin to live on it. Before you realize a generation of people that owe. You are even given a name, Pali Ban Kongole Paja. Mapazo Pali Ban Kongole Pa Nyumba Pacha. So, we need to be very careful as we engage ourselves into debt. In case, peradventure, you decide I want to borrow, please, borrow for things that are going to grow that money. Peradventure, you are this person who wants to continue borrowing. Me, I've made a decision about borrowing. And that is why I can comfortably talk about debt. Because I understand the use of debt and how to come out of it. And how to deal with it. In case you are this one who is addicted to it, please, when you borrow to go and make money out of it. Don't borrow to go and buy a car to take you from work to home. No. It means you are at a stage where you should be getting on a bus. If you have gone to the bank to borrow a vehicle and that vehicle moves you from home to work, please, I would suggest to you sell it and begin to get on a bus. But if you're going to borrow and buy a vehicle, and that vehicle is a bus you wanted to pirate, yes, maybe I'll listen to you. So do not borrow for consumption. The situation I was in myself was borrowing for consumption. You reach a point where by even food, to ntemba around, they have come to know you. They've come to know you. You are the person who kachuka kunchito, pakantemba, you're asking for something. Don't borrow for consumption. Live within your means. The way out of debt, brothers and sisters, is lifestyle change. You need to change your lifestyle. Look at the life you are living and ask yourself, is this the life I should be living? Is this a life I should be living? Now, I want you to know that if you are working in an office and you are earning 10,000 kwacha each, And there's you who's an Adventist in there. For you, already, when your friends are earning 100%, you are earning 80%. Before you talk about it, you are earning 90% before you talk about offerings. So you cannot compare your life with those of your colleagues who have no commitment to God. Are we getting that? You cannot. For them, they have a luxury to go and borrow because they have an extra 20% that you have to bring to God for them to go and spend on other things. So lifestyle change we need. The second thing is self-sacrifice. We need to be sacrificing as children of God. There are things that we should not be having, that we have. Some of us here should be riding on bicycles. But we're driving. Some of us should be having motorcycles instead of cars. Some of us should actually be staying kuchibodia kucha, not where we are living. But because you want to perpetuate a particular lifestyle, you move on. There is no element of self-sacrifice and discipline. And savings is another thing that you cannot talk about debt without speaking about savings. The majority of people get into debt because they cannot save. They have no discipline to save. And let me tell you, like I said, the world has made us to believe that you cannot save. We have so many problems around us that we cannot be able to save. I want to let you know that it is very possible to save and be able to do the things that you want to do. What you need is discipline. What you need is discipline and correct financial decisions. You know, certain things that make us fail to save are issues like you go in a shop and buy things you didn't go there to buy. It's very common for our sisters. You walk in a shop, you want to buy bread. You come out of there, you are pulling a trolley. You are pulling a trolley. Before you realize now, you go back to the money you saved and remove a bit. Savings. Allow me to conclude as I'll be asking one or two comments. So, number one, the Bible does not say no to borrowing. There are people that borrowed in the Bible. There are many of them. But their story were bad ones. We are bad ones. And for us who have lived long enough on this earth, we have seen that. The stories are not good ones. Debt looks very good when you're getting it. Remember when our country borrowed and we were at some stage called the highly indebted country. And then came the time of structural adjustment program. And you are told for 4 years there is no salary increment. I don't know how many of you lived that time. Very difficult times. Very difficult times. And we don't learn, we are back to it now. Our children shall have to live in structural adjustment programs. That can happen even to you as an individual. It can happen to you. I'm not speaking politics here. I'm just giving you examples of how debt can be very bad to an organization, to a country, and to an individual. And so, given an opportunity to make a recommendation, I would tell you, avoid debt. Because many times when we speak about debt management, many of us have failed to manage debt. Have failed to manage debt. But if you decide to borrow, borrow responsibly. There's what is called good and bad debt. Good debt is debt that you get to consume. I mean, good debt is a debt that you get to invest. Bad debt is a debt that you get to consume. So our management of debt as Christians is very key. It has become the biggest impediment to us being faithful to our God. And it is my prayer that we shall consider our habits when it comes to borrowing. Let me take one or two comments or questions, then we shall conclude this.
Good afternoon. I'm just trying to think of how we can help our church. We've just been learning about entrepreneurship, and quite a number of the members are interested to become an entrepreneur. But quite a number, again, they would want to think of how to start a business. We are mindful that each person has a talent. Now, on the church side, can the church, is the church allowed to have a revolving fund where those who want to start to become entrepreneur to start their business and ask for the revolving fund? The revolving fund operates like a bank where you don't really necessarily need to pay the interest. All the money is just revolving from one person to the other. Is the church allowed to have such a revolving fund so that we reduce on borrowing? And how can it be done? Secondly, there are quite a number of people who fear to come and maybe perhaps even asking for some help of that money, because the fear is they will be seen like they are nothing. They don't have anything. Why go to that? Maybe that's why most of our friends go to the banks and borrow, because a bank always have confidence in someone disclosing personal information. Unlike going to our elder, I'm asking for some money, the elder gives me the money, then maybe the elder would go to the other person to say, well, if it was not me, that person wouldn't be like the way he is or she is. I think maybe perhaps this question can be answered. How can the church help our friends, the brothers and sisters, to start their business and also to have the revolving funds within our church?
All right. In my presentation here, there's something I indicated that some people have gone into borrowing because the church and its membership do not come forth when there's a need. And so they go into borrowing. So my sister, that's a very brilliant idea, I would suggest, of the church creating a fund that is going to help out people. You know, the biggest problem in debt is interest. It's the biggest problem. But if believers can become faithful to that fund, which in most cases has been a problem, that is a very good way of empowering members in the church. Members can be able to tap out from there, do what they're doing, and return back that money. So I don't see anything wrong with a church having to do that. Switch on.
Okay. I just wanted to help to respond to her question. I know that within our church, there are groups, I know like the AMO, they have what you would call a revolving fund. It's like the village banking. So those, and I don't know if the AMO leader or the secretary is here. I think it's been working, I don't know now, but I think when they started, it was working very well. So members wanted to borrow, they had to contribute and then borrow at a very low interest. So I think that to some extent is already happening, like at this church and all that.
Thank you. All right, one more comment.
Hallelujah, church. For me, it's my first time to stand in front of this church. And I'm a full-time holding member to this church since 2014 up to date. I want to give you a testimony over the thing related to the entrepreneurship. I think Mr. Mpondo there is my full-time witness for this testimony which I'm going to give. In 2013, the time when I came here, my name, I'm Kukamebin, the security guard at this church. The time when I came to this church, I saw that nothing I can do for the time when I'm just around at this church. What should I do? I was looking, if you look at behind this old building, there is a lodge which is Cosmic Lodge. There I saw there were a lot of drinking bottles. I started getting those bottles to take to my wife and started putting some water to sell the water. I was raising money. If you look at the compound, the way how they are selling the water, 20 liters, it is 15 ngwe. So we used to put 20 liters into those bottles, like the bottle which are under the elder there. We used to put maybe 30, 35 so. So 35 minus 15 ngwe, which is 34 kwacha 15 ngwe. So I used to keep that small amount of money to save. Every day I used to do like that. Mr. Mpondo there is my witness. The money which I was raising, I changed the business as I was here. I started giving orders from Kasama, where I came from, for those who were looking for the chitenge materials and other things, so that I can exchange with the groundnuts, which is barter system. I used to send my wife there, and when I used to come here, I used to get sometimes permission from Mr. Mpundu to go and buy the chitenge materials from Komesa. After 1 or 2 years, I managed to buy a piece of land, which is 20 by 20 at 10 miles. Then I continued the same business, same system. Then I saw that again there are some people, more especially the elders like Mr. Katunta. He was looking for those people who are supposed to work behind there. If anyone can work to put the pavers, he used to pay maybe 100 kwacha, 75. Then I said, yeah, no, Mr. Katunta, elder, show me how to put. I can manage. It's me who planted all this kapinga behind there. It's me who put all the pavers there. Then there is a time, after those money, I used to buy bit by bit to my blocks. Then as time goes, last year, December, I managed to count 3,000 blocks from the same to my piecework and some of the car business I said. Then I said, okay, I have got my brother from the village who know how to build. Let me just call him to come and help me. That man, he came. When he came, I had a best friend who was very closest to me. That man, Madam Simbile there, he also got employment from Madam Simbile, Mr. Chota. He said, okay, you are my friend. Let me just also help you how to build there. I got a leave. And when I look where I can find the wheelbarrows, chanshan, I talked to the church elders here. They borrowed me those my drums, shovels, and pick whatever things which needed to implement for that project. I went there and started building. As I'm talking now, I have got a 6-roomed house. And the things which are remaining to put is floor and iron sheets I already put. So I'm looking for the floor and also the pillars. I talked to the head deacon, Mr. Hiva. I said, hey, elder, I have now nothing to do at the moment because I have not even a capital to at least put myself forward for this matter. I'm looking for now the pillars like those mapos. Elder, there are some there. So I'm asking if you can help me. And I know God maybe is going to answer my prayer. This is my testimony. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good testimony, my brother. That's a good testimony. And what I pick there is that the brother has done what he has done without engaging himself in any owing anybody. Yeah, not owing anybody. There are no debts. Yes, there are no debts involved there. And I want you to know that it's very possible. It's very possible. I've also been in business for some time. And my growth in business has been from what is called organically grown revenue. Revenue that you work for. And from it you save until you invest. All right? You invest and you begin investing and you begin to invest until you reach a point of growing that particular business. And one of my businesses, for your own information, is Radio Phoenix. Radio Phoenix is my business. I'm the proprietor there. And I teach, even within staff in there, that avoid borrowing. Avoid borrowing. You know, some of the people that we have there are journalists who can easily be bought. So the last thing they would want to have is financial pressure. Okay? They don't want someone to come, a politician, to bribe them because they're under financial stress. So you tell them, live within your means. Live within your means. And so it's a gospel that I keep preaching to a lot of people. Live within your means. It's the only way you are going to have some level of integrity. In Tonga, they say, debt la tundulola. You know that, eh? Yeah, that it makes you become unworthy at times if you don't manage it well. So, brothers and sisters, it is very possible. Even the entrepreneurship we are learning about, it is very possible to grow it only self-saving. You save and you invest. You save and you invest. And remember, you start small and grow. The brother there, his testimony is starting small and grow. The next time you come and give a testimony here, my brother, you have a 10-bedroom house. And you'll be telling us, I started small like that. Peace jobs, until I went up to the top. So, as I conclude, brothers and sisters, if you can, avoid the debt. If you can, avoid the debt. Debt is addictive and is not good for us as Christians. Work on empowerment schemes like my elder have spoken about there. Empowerment schemes to empower people. But do not get into debt. May the good Lord bless you.
Thank you very much, Elder, for that wonderful presentation. This is one of the topics that's so close to my heart. Living within your own means. I think you've really presented a very good topic and presented it well. We're very grateful. I'm sure we have learned something from the presentation, even the first presentation. So we just want to thank the two elders for these wonderful presentations. The first one was the entrepreneurship, and of course, the debt management. So, brothers and sisters, as we have heard, let us try and strive and live within our own means. I can say a lot about that, but he's done a very good job. Starting from tomorrow, the elders on duty are Elder Ramson Mumbamwansa and Elder Kateura Sichalwe. So the two elders, the ones who are on duty this coming week, starting from tomorrow until next Sabbath. So if you need to contact them, their contact numbers are in the bulletin. So on behalf of Elder Mungalaba and on my own behalf, we are handing over to the new team, and thank you very much. I will just ask Elder Mungalaba to just come and give us a closing prayer. But before that, I just want to remind the church that we have patients in our midst. Sister Sialuvanje is still admitted to the UTH, and Elder Sohati is still at Levy Hospital. So please let us remember our patients, even as we have our own family prayers. Let us remember our brother and the sister. Once again, Elders Musurwe and in absentia, Elder Giabi, we are very grateful for the presentations. I hope, Elder, one will still contact you. I know that we might need you at some point to come and speak to the church again. I was telling Elder Giabi that we have a lot of young people in the church who might need some tips on how they can start their own businesses, how they can become entrepreneurs. We have, if I'm not mistaken, more than 1,000 students from the University of Zambia. And you know now the employment market has really shrinked. So if they can get tips on how, after completing their studies, how they can start their own businesses, I think that would help a great deal. So we will definitely get in touch as church leadership to just maybe arrange for another date for this kind of studies. I'm happy that finally as a church we are now freely and openly discussing these issues of, for example, debt management. I think these are things that are not common in the past. They have not been discussed so openly, but now I think this is happening. Okay, thank you very much. We wish you all the best this coming week, and God blessings. Elder Mungaraba, close for us.
I'll invite us to rise. Shall we rise for closing prayer? Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for your goodness to us. We thank you, Master, because you are the one who sustains our lives. And above all, Lord, you are the one who keep filling our lives with special knowledge like what you've brought to us this afternoon. We thank you, Master, because you are the one who talented each one of us. And your command is, go and occupy. How we pray, Heavenly Lord, that from the youngest to the eldest here, you may teach each one of us to be self-sufficient, not to our glory, but to your glory. So that, Heavenly Lord, when we occupy and we become self-sufficient, we will be able to live within our means and be the ones that will help the work in your church and help it grow. And so keep enthusing each one of us, Heavenly Lord, to identify opportunities to support the work in your church. Make us faithful, Lord, to return a faithful tithe, and make us generous enough to return or to give a liberal offering so that your work may grow. And today, as we come to the end of our programming here at church. We pray for a full settlement of the Sabbath blessings on each one of us represented here at church, and all those of your faithful members following the programming out there online. Thank you, Lord, for the blessing we've had. And so keep us safe till we meet again. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Yeah, so we'll invite Brother Kayombo just to help us sing a song as we end our programming. Thank you. Have a blessed week.
We'll be singing 294, Power in the Blood. Would you be free from the burden of sin? There's power in the blood, power in the blood. Would you, O evil, a victory win? There's wonderful power in the blood. There is power, power, wonder-working power in the blood of the Lamb. There is power, power, wonder-working power in the precious blood of the Lamb. Would you be free from your passion and pride? There's power in the blood, power in the blood. Come for a cleansing to Calvary's tide. There's wonderful power in the blood. There is power, power, wonder-working power in the blood of the Lamb. There is power, power, wonder-working power in the precious blood of the Lamb. Thank you.
Katebebe wa mushilo shakapanga nimwe. Katebebe, katebebe, katebebe wa mushilo shakapanga nimwe. Ganalwala mulamposha katebebe wa mushilo shakapanga nimwe. Ganapona mulanjimya katebebe wa mushilo shakapanga nimwe. Katebebe, katebebe, katebebe wa mushilo shakapanga nimwe. Katebebe, katebebe, katebebe wa mushilo shakapanga nimwe. Ganaluba, ganaluba, mulamwesha, mulamwesha, katebebe wa mushilo